come on down to Real Rock Radio. You'll find it under St. Louis on KSHE 95.
I don't know how we're going to keep this conversation to a decent length with Steve Rosen in the studio with us today.
A blast from the past.
If you grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, mostly the 70s here in St. Louis, and of course discovered KSHE, you discovered Steve Rosen on 7 to Midnight from 68 to 76.
Yeah,
You
early
were on-
1968 to 1976.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you ever get there? What was
He was still in high school in 68.
I was still in high school.
He was
I
a
had-
junior.
I had
or
had
a
a
senior then.
I was a senior, and I was
Yeah,
graduating
right.
from University City. I had a part-time
University City.
University City. That's right. And Gary Bennett and I used to work at a small station called KRCH 98.1, which
yeah,
became the KSLQ and so
Right.
forth.
Right.
And we did some work for them, and KSHE then became Rock in 68. This was about 67, 66. Gary and I were working
Right.
at this other
Yeah.
station. And one thing led to another. I met Shelley Graffman.
Wow.
And at 18 years old,
And you
he
said, I'm doing
I said,
air
I'd like
work?
to do this. He said, come on in and meet me. I was totally freaked out because all I wanted was to work at KSHE.
Yes.
And he brought me in one morning. He said, well, how much I was making, and I could care less what
Yeah,
it was.
right.
I would have paid him.
Yes.
And I started, in fact, I originally started on the 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. shift.
We all did. We
Yes.
started that or early hours on weekends.
Correct.
Yeah, I did
Correct.
weekends.
And I was going to college then, so I'd work till 5 a.m., sleep in the room of the office of KSHE on the old hard floor.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Love was coming in and doing his show after me. He would wake me up at 7 a.m., and I'd go to school.
Remember these names, Brother Love, and then
Yes.
was Paul, friend of the people who worked for KDI.
and Prince
We had
Knight.
Prince Knight,
When
Sir
I was there,
Ed.
Yes.
trying to remember, the original staff when I walked in was Brother Love was on mornings, Big Jack Davis, Don O'Day, Prince Knight, myself, and that was the basic.
Yeah.
Doesn't
let's
even
talk
matter
about-
after that.
Let's talk about that iconic black and white photo. I believe was taken behind the KSHE building next to the drive-in theater way back then. You're
Yes.
in there. Shelley's in there.
Yeah, and Sir Ed is in there.
Right.
Don Corey,
Yeah.
Gary Bennett,
Dick Merkel.
Dick Merkel's in there.
John Williams.
Correct.
Yeah.
That
That was
was-
the lineup.
Are those
then.
guys all from University City?
No, Gary Bennett and I.
Yeah,
were.
yeah,
And we didn't mention Prince Knight was in that photo.
Prince Knight was in that photo. That's one of the most historic photos
Yeah.
that has ever been taken.
Yeah, and it's
of KSHE.
In St. Louis.
it's
In
been
St. Louis,
preserved, so you
And
do
it's been
see
preserved.
that. Yes.
I
Right.
have one of the main copies. I'm sure there's other, but I cherish it.
You know, there's a place now. It's a media museum. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Across from Compton,
yeah.
the Compton Tower.
Yeah.
On Russell? Is that Russell
Yes,
there?
it is Russell.
Yeah, right.
And
yeah.
they did a KDI thing, and then I think
doing a
now they're
KSHE
doing
thing
a
now.
KSHE thing, aren't they?
Yes, they
Yeah, I
are.
wonder. I bet that picture's in there.
Yeah, there's so many pictures that I wish I still have that we have taken.
Yeah.
I have been finding more, but
This one here we're looking at now, I took from the stage in Forest Park at the Kite Fly.
Kite Fly. Oh, my
This was the
goodness.
year KISS performed. And look at that audience.
It's
All of
unbelievable.
these people are either grandparents now or gone.
Yes, yes.
Moved on.
But there are some who are still wearing the same pig shirt.
but when you
Look at
think,
all the blue jeans in this photo.
when you think back, I can't even imagine that I started at KSHE almost 50 years ago.
Whoa! Don't
I'm
say
giving away
that.
my age, but
Yeah, right.
But you know,
No,
seriously,
And we had
that's,
that reunion in 1982.
Correct.
But since then, you and Terry Siegel, who worked at KDI, got together and did a couple of reunions over the last 5 or 6 years, right?
the first one was in about 2012, I want to say,
Okay, yeah.
which we had at the House of Rock.
Yes.
Well, that was a big success. Well, one thing led to another, and with the help of Terry and some other people, we had the huge one, which was at the Ameristar, where Sammy
Yeah.
Hagar came and Audio
Right.
Speedwagon, and a lot of our old friends.
And this was pretty amazing, too, because Sammy Hagar and REO Speedwagon came just to do it. No charge.
Yeah, and Poco,
Just like, you know.
and
Yeah, I
Rusty
mean-
Young was there from
Yeah.
Poco.
I
yeah.
remember telling an old story to people. I remember doing an interview once in the early days of KSHE. A group came in. They were playing at one of the small clubs, and the group walked in, and I thought I had heard of one of the people's names. And as I'm getting their names, I say, "Your name, sir?" And he goes, "Rod Stewart." Never heard his name in my life. He was just,
Yes.
The people who came through those
the
doors
people that
at
came through is
KSHE.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean,
And were you nervous the first time you had to meet a big rock star or interview one?
yes, I think I was.
Yeah.
It was just like the night I was on a Saturday night, I'll forget it, and somebody knocked at the window. And I turn around, it's Chuck Berry.
This is like
Just
right out of a movie,
I mean,
isn't it?
It's kind of
Coming
a
by,
nightmare.
so he walks in, and we do an interview right off the cuff. I mean,
Really?
Yeah, we
Chuck
used to do a
Berry.
lot of those. So they would just show up.
Well, remember we had to queue up the old records
Oh,
and get
yes.
the needle and put it on. And I had, who was that guy from Black Oak, Arkansas? You know, who I'm talking about?
Jim Dandy.
Jim
Yeah, Jim
Dandy.
Dandy.
Oh,
Jim Dandy.
he was quite a presence.
He
He was
was
almost
something.
like Ted Nugent. I mean,
Yes.
he came in his little pink crop top. And I was so nervous that I couldn't get the record queued up. I couldn't get the
goodness.
needle to go into the right groove.
I remember having Naz in the studio, and in that little chair we used to have in the corner,
Yeah.
sitting there was a really quiet guy. It was Ted Nugent. I mean, not Ted. Excuse me, Todd Rundgren.
Todd
Excuse me.
Rundgren, of course, yes.
And he was just so quiet. I'll
Oh,
never
he
forget
is
that.
quiet. I was gonna say
he
Ted
didn't
Nugent
say
is-
much. Not Ted Nugent. No, I interviewed him though, but Todd and so many people came through there that I can just remember that at the time you're thinking, "What am I thinking?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't take photos
Yeah,
back then.
I
take
know.
Where are the
I know.
photos
It
of
was
any
like-
of this? Yeah.
Things just happened the way things were supposed to
Yeah.
happen.
Well, didn't you have Greg Allman fall asleep in the middle of his interview?
Actually, Bob Birch did. Bob Birch was interviewing Greg Allman, and he fell asleep right in the middle of the interview. And Ted Habeck's very first interview was with Frank Zappa.
Oh, my goodness.
And Ted made the mistake of telling Frank, "This is my first interview," and
Oh,
Frank
no.
just walked all over
Oh,
him.
that's so
He had
mean.
fun with him. He wasn't trying to be mean. He was
Oh.
just being Frank Zappa.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
and poor Ted.
And some of the people I still try to keep in touch of the old groups. I keep in touch with a couple people from Naz and Rotary Connection and some of the old groups we used to do.
Yeah.
And, of course, Sammy Hagar and people. And,
Well,
it's
Gypsy
just...
has Ron doing some kind of emceeing thing.
Yeah, James
coming
Walsh
up next.
and Gypsy. There's actually a documentary coming out.
Correct, that's what I understand.
In February, and they will debut this documentary at the Wildey Theater in Edwardsville with James Walsh and his band performing first the movie.
We saw them a
then-
year ago, and
yeah.
they're so good.
They
They're so
are. They're
jazzy.
amazing musicians.
Yeah.
But James and I are going to sit down on stage and just talk a while, and then the audience can ask questions as well after seeing the movie, the documentary, and then they will perform for an hour or so.
It's just amazing. I mean, when you think back of what we were a part of, it's almost like non-believable. I mean, I remember the James Gang with Joe Walsh and all the people that became superstars.
These guys, Joy and I traveled-
The Eagles were nobody.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, they were
exactly.
just,
James Gang was my favorite.
Small club groups.
But Joy and I, we lived in LA and New York and traveled the world, and
Right.
everywhere we went, that respect for KSHE existed.
Yes.
Many, many years later, still existed. It's just
It's
incredible.
just, when you're going through it, you just go, you don't know it. It's like,
Right, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
like,
it's just like a dream, but
Yeah.
it did happen. And people I talk to some people sometime, they go, "My God, the KSHE 95." I went, "Yeah."
we need to do an extended version of this someday soon. You're just in town visiting right now.
I'm in town
right?
visiting right now.
And we've
for
all been trying to
Thanksgiving.
convince you to move back.
Yes.
And eventually we'll get you to do that. And hopefully, but let's ask the big question, because if I don't, people will be mad. Will there be another KSHE reunion party?
We hope there will be. That's for sure.
We're going to get Terry Siegel in
We're
here
gonna
and get to the
get
bottom of this.
and
she gets it done.
I'm still producing in radio. I still am in radio, and
Where
it's
do you
a
live
passion.
now?
I live in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Have been for a while, and it's our passion. It's just been something I've loved since I was a small kid. And it's just part of me. It's just
Yeah,
like
you'll never
a
get
music
it out.
artist or anything.
Right, yeah.
It's your passion. You have to do it, or you go nuts.
Yeah, well, it's what you do. I have
It's-
run to
yeah.
so many people lately. They said they retired, and then they sat around and they're like, "Well, what am I doing? I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing because that's what I do."
And I was very lucky to be able to get back in because it's a very different type of business.
It's
it
very,
was.
very different. Yes.
Very different.
Yeah. Well,
So-
thank you for coming in here today,
Thank
Steve.
you so much for
Yes,
having me. These are
so
two of my
nice to see
best
you.
friends in the business, Ron and Joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks to Nighthawk Security. They made our segment possible today. They're locally owned and locally monitored here in St. Louis since 1974. Home and business security for the St. Louis metro area for over 40 years. Call 846-4600 and ask for Joe.